What is going on? What is up? What's happening, people? So, it's been a fun week. So last week we went live from the great state of New Jersey. Had John and Phil on. That was a lot of fun. Was there for a communion, visit family. I went to go visit my mom and dad's grave. And visit with family and friends. It was really cool. And so I've got a whole lineup of guests coming up, and I had a friend, colleague, coworker, all this stuff. I got this guy. He's amazing. I mean, he's an incredible dude. And I'm going to bring him on here. He's let me tell you something. I know this guy for now going on 5 years. And, before I bring him on, I just want to say, like, he's an extraordinary individual. I've never really met anybody like him. And, he's driven, he's motivated. He's really one of a kind. And he's an incredibly talented, service and sales rep. His name's Blake, and we kind of made the journey here simultaneously. Really. He came up down to Dallas, from the Northeast. I'll let him tell his story, but pretty cool. So, without further ado, I'm just going to bring him on. Blake.
What's up, man?
What's up, man? Blake, you Italian?
Yeah. 100%, man.
Just a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit. Sicilian and Napolitan.
No, it's funny because the last name, how could you not know, like Monforte? It's funny too, if you look at the name of this episode, which I don't even think you can see, it's actually called Fugheddaboudit with Blake Monforte.
Oh, that's cool. I can't see that, but that aligns, fits perfect.
Forget about it.
I appreciate the introduction, man.
Yeah, you're one of a kind. You're one of a kind dude, man. I'm real happy to have you on.
Me too.
Man,
likewise.
So, all right. So we got an interesting story on how this whole thing happened. Kind of weird, right? We're in a foreign land and we meet and tell people who are you, bro?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for allowing me on your show, man. I've been following it and I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of you and I'm a fan of what you do. You're an incredible husband, an incredible father. I get to see that firsthand, and I appreciate our friendship, and it means a lot to me. And thank you for giving me, this screen time with you, man. So appreciate that first and foremost.
Well, you and a few thousand people.
Yeah, I know. And that's what makes it a little bit nervous, right? I talk to you all the time and it's like talking to my brother, but now there's people listening. So, but our story, it's kind of crazy, man. So Everett and I lived on Staten Island, New York, and Everett's lived in New Jersey.
Woo, dang. Woo,
20 minutes away from each other, man. 20 minutes away from each other. Never met this guy a day in my life. And we get to Texas. I got here a little bit before you, and then you come to the company where we're working. I can't say the name, can I?
It doesn't really matter.
Okay, so whatever. We work at this company together. And you come in and you come in a higher position than me. I'm a service technician. I'm just kind of getting my feet wet in the residential world because I've done commercial in New York. And it's safe to say that we clicked right away, man. Just having somebody that sounds like me. You don't get too much of that.
I'm not as bad, bro. I'm not as bad. I mean, people hear me. They have to actually ask a question real quick. Like, he's from somewhere. It doesn't come out, like the Jersey doesn't come out. The Northeast doesn't come out for, it takes a minute. Right. But then I'm around you. I feel like I'm like, hey, forget about it.
How you doing? Right. So we met at this company and we just kind of, you took me under your wing. If I'm saying this very honestly, you've taken me under your wing. You've always looked at me like I was your little brother. I don't know why you felt like you had that obligation, but you told me you did. And we've wanted to be a cowboy as soon as he got here. Yeah.
Jordan said everyone wanted to be a cowboy as soon as he got here. Actually, you guys coined the phrase. He called me the Jersey Cowboy. That was like right off the bat. They were like, hey, this Jersey Cowboy over here.
Well, they can't say the same thing about me. I never put on a cowboy hat. I've never put on cowboy boots. I'll tell you what, I still got a pair of Timberlands in my closet. So I'm as New York as they get, but you know, in a good way. But yeah, me and you just clicked, man. And it was nice to have that. And we've left that world. And then we started a new journey at another company, which was not as successful as the first go around. And but we've stayed in touch. You know, we've seen each other. You've been to my house. I've been to your house. We've actually had Thanksgiving together, which was a great time, phenomenally hosted by you and your wife. And this relationship is going to the grave with me, man. So hope you're ready for that. Going to the grave.
But so how did you get, so what did you do? So tell people what'd you do in New York, because you worked what, pipe fitting, tin knocking, you were working for right? I mean, you were in construction.
Yeah. So I just, what happened where it really started was my father had a best friend, and his best friend, Robert Red, they called him, because he had red hair. So they called him Robert Red. He was an Italian guy, but he looked Irish. And he told my father, he said, you know, I want to put you to work. And my father said, why don't you put my son to work? At the time, I was doing construction. I was just out of college. It was 2012. I did 2 years at a community college in Manhattan. And I was in construction, dude, and I couldn't understand anybody. I was working with a bunch of Mexican workers, you know, and it was kind of brutal because, like, even at lunchtime, right, they go sit under a tree and get shade. And I go sit by myself because I didn't understand them and they didn't understand me. And it was brutal, dude. It was brutal. And I'm a people's person. I like to talk and I like to interact. And, you know,
you didn't learn how to speak Spanish?
I mean, here and there, I knew some
Italian's
words.
Close. Italian's close to Spanish.
I know, but I'm so New York that, like, we're generations in. I wish I never been to Italy, but whatever. So, you know, so I go through that phase, and then, you know, my father says, why don't you put my son to work? So Robert Red puts me to work, and he owns a company called Cam Fuel in Brooklyn, right off of 4th Avenue by the Barclays Center, over by Atlantic Avenue. And I start out in the office. I start out with administration work. So I'm like, dude, at this time, we don't have iPads. There's no Service Titan, Sarah. There's none of that. So it's literally, you're printing out these tickets, and the drivers come and get them, and they route out their own routes, right? So they're oil truck drivers. They're delivering oil. And I'm doing that for about 6 months. I'm dressed nice. I'm in the office. I think who I am, you know, making a little bit of money. And then he tells me, hey, I need some more guys out in the field. We need some more manpower. So the way I was raised was, you just don't say no, because, you know, if you say no, basically you could give up, you know, positions to your job. So I said, yeah, man, whatever you need. So I went out in the field. Let me tell you something, Everett. It is totally a different animal than what I do today. The amount of construction, the power tools. I used to come home black, man, like cleaning boilers with soot. I would come home soot all over me. I remember one time wearing these safety goggles. I came home to my wife. At the time, she was my girlfriend. Dude, I looked like a raccoon. It was because I was all black and all you could see was my eyes. So I've come a long way I've done that, you know, drilling, masonry, just drilling through, pipe fitting. I do miss pipe fitting though, man. Like just running the pipes through the machine and oiling them down and threading them and cutting them and, you know, using pipe wrenches and stuff. Like there are some stuff that I definitely miss to it, that I miss doing. But I started there. And then me and Catherine had our kid. We had Chelsea, our first daughter. Then we had Blake right away. So within a year and 2 weeks, we had 2 kids. And I've always had the itch to kind of leave New York and just see what else was out there. And we just did research. We went on the computer and saw like what was the best place to raise a family. We thought about California, but then we're like, well, let's not go there. It's like a New York, right? But just with nicer weather. So we didn't go there. I wanted to go to Idaho. I wanted to go somewhere very weird. I'm like, if we're going to leave the Big Apple, let's go somewhere odd. Let's go somewhere weird. But Idaho actually there's some areas of Idaho that are really nice. And then it was Arizona, but my wife didn't want to go to Arizona, but she did want to go somewhere warm. So we decided on Texas. So we just picked up and left, man. We had a Subaru Legacy that my mom was leasing from the dealership. She got in many accidents. I had to take the car away from her because it was under my name, but she was making the payments. We put a 5x8 U-Haul trailer on a Subaru Legacy. I didn't even know the thing could tow. So now I'm doing all this research with like U-Haul and what could tow what. This Subaru Legacy towed up to 3,600 pounds. The trailer alone was 1,000 pounds. So we put like 2,000 pounds in this 5x8, if that. You know, just throwing clothes in black bags, vacuum sealing them with like a vacuum zip tying them. So ridiculous the way I moved to Texas. And now if I move, dude, I would probably need two 26-foot trucks. It's
no,
ridiculous.
no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You know why? Here's why. Because, and I made this agreement, and Dana knows this. Okay, I made this agreement. If I ever had to leave and go somewhere and move somewhere, here's the deal. Everything goes for sale. Everything goes on Facebook Marketplace, on everything. Everything is sold.
Starting all over, dude.
If there's anything left over, okay, everybody's coming over. It's all getting tossed into the backyard, and we're going to have a bonfire. That's what's going to happen.
That's ridiculous, dude.
That's what's going to happen. There's no moving anything. Everything stays.
That's not even true, man. You know, there's so much stuff in your house that you're taking with you.
You know what? I'm going to let you finish your story, but listen to this. My mother, God rest her soul, okay? She got a piano from my grandfather when she was like 12 years old. Okay. This thing's like literally, I mean, now what, 60 something years old or whatever. And she refused. I told her, because she moved down here before she passed away. She refused to leave it up there. I told her, I said, Mom, it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s, if not more, to move this thing, right? She didn't listen to me. She didn't tell me. She put it on a moving truck and she moved it down here. And it was by itself, and she had other things. And I'm so grateful, actually, that she did that, because it's in my music room downstairs. And, you know, all the kids play on it and I play on it. And it's like, I learned how to play piano on that. So like, yeah, I guess there's a value in some stuff.
That's what I'm saying. You're not going to burn anything, dude. You value your stuff. You're taking it all with you, but it's a hassle to move.
So yes, a hassle. So you move. All right. So you move cross country. Actually, you told me this once. You said that you guys were actually, you thought you were going to end up in Houston, and somehow you ended up in Dallas.
That's correct. So when I did it, it's crazy how everything changed, because all I did was change the route. So, you know, you go on Google, you put the navigation in, and it brought us through like, I don't know, Louisiana, coming right into Houston from New York. And I said, I didn't really like those states. I don't know much about them. I didn't travel around the United States a lot. So, but what I did know is if we changed the route, we could hit Nashville and then come through Texas and then hit Houston. So it gave us the ability to see more of Texas. And that's what I was really interested in. If we take the Houston route, it just brought us right into Texas. So when we
Hold on a second. You didn't have a place to rent or anything when you got into. Hold on. Stop for 1 second.
Yeah.
You got into a truck. You got into a Subaru Legacy. You got to do a Subaru Legacy. You put a tow hitch on it. You brought a U-Haul down to Texas with 2 children, and you didn't even have a place to live.
That's correct. So listen. So what we did have.
What kind of maniac are you?
Well, what happened was we thought we were going to Katy, Texas. So the whole thing was, I told you, I took the job for oil, like the oil, right? I became a boiler mechanic. I started working on boilers. I was doing installing boilers and all that stuff. So everything I was doing was revolving around gas and oil. Houston is what? Gas and oil, right?
Bro, so it's a different kind of oil, though.
Totally different.
There's not a boiler in the entire state of Texas, bro.
Totally
there's not a boiler. Dude, there's not even a boiler anywhere here. Nowhere. There's no boilers in Texas.
Yeah, there's commercial ones.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no. It's like there's no elevators, right? Why would you move here if you're an elevator technician, dude? So what I did have planned was we were going to stay in like this longer extended hotel. We knew where the storage was, like regular, like crazy stuff, dude. It was crazy. So we drive down into Texas. We get to Frisco, McKinney, all these areas, pretty much Collin County. And I already knew about that stuff because we have done research on it, like what good areas to raise a family. So we were in Plano, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But let me tell you something, dude. I'm a diehard New York Giant fan, as you know. There's no way I could live in Dallas, right? It's just not a thing. It's never going to happen. So when we get to like Plano and Frisco, I'm just like really intrigued, man. I just can't understand how it looks so nice compared to New York. And when I say nice, what I mean is just like very clean, very new. It's so clean. It's so new. It's modern. The banks, the car washes, everything's made of like brick, right? Where, I mean, it's different world. So when I said, well, let's go down to Houston because I don't want to have that feeling like, what if we didn't see it? So we go down to Houston, and honestly, bro, it was like Staten Island. It was like New York. And I'm like, well, if we're going to do that, we could have just stayed in New York. So we come back up, and we end up living in Frisco, Texas, in an apartment. Carolina just tied the game, by the way. We end up living in Frisco. Because we didn't know there was apartments, dude. We had no idea like Texas had these apartments, these complexes. They're like resorts. You go get an apartment. It's got a beautiful pool. There's open areas with like pool tables, ping pong. You could throw parties in there and stuff. Dude, that stuff doesn't exist. And I tell people this, that people don't ask my story, like when I'm running calls with homeowners and stuff. And I'm like, New York, if you live in the building, you're in the projects. Like there's no, if you're in the apartment buildings, you're in the projects. And
no. Hold on. Let's clarify that.
Go ahead. Jersey might be different.
No, even in New York, like you can live in a regular apartment complex with a regular apartment and just pay.
Show me one on Staten Island.
Bro, you can live. I'm just saying, in New York City, they're like gazillion dollars a month, but you can live in a regular apartment building. But if you want the pool and the common area and the pool tables and everything, you're paying like $17,000.
That's not in my world at the time, though. I'm not even. I can't even fathom that. So
yeah.
So we move, and we get to Texas, and then everything just kind of went up from there, man. But I mean, to fast forward the story, it was when I left, right? We get to New Jersey because we drive out of Staten Island, and the first thing you see is the Jersey signs. And honestly, brother, the first thing I felt was relief right off my shoulder. It was I left at 4:00 in the morning. It was August 27th, 2018 is when I left Staten Island, and we got our first apartment September 15th, 2018. In Frisco, Texas.
Yeah.
And now we live in our house. Thank God.
I know. There's an interesting feeling, like that sense of like relief. And I think part of it actually has to do with the fact that like you have an actualization of yourself, or at least a picture of yourself. And if you're with people that know you, and if you're always surrounded by people in your past and everything like that, like anytime somebody looks at you or anybody, it's like, oh, I know that guy. And, they think of like you in high school. They think of you in like whatever. Correct. And
clean slate, man.
Yeah, you can't really, it's like, it's very difficult. It kind of anchors you down. I got a lot of thoughts on that because obviously I made the cross-country trip myself.
You did it a lot different than me. You've done it a lot different than me. You did it.
We knew where we were going.
You did it the right way. Not that you did it different. You had it more strategic plan than me.
Did you even have, was it paper maps? What'd you do? You map quested it? What happened?
What do you mean? It was all computer stuff, dude.
I'm kidding. Yeah. It's like you didn't even put a GPS on. You just
started driving, right?
You had like printed maps. You were like circling like landmarks on maps. Like, we got to go here. Hey, let me ask you though.
We stopped at the White House. It was cool, man. It was something I'll never forget. We took our time doing it.
Well, that's good. You took your time getting down here, but Blake, on that, man, I don't know how personal you want to get, but you had a really weird upbringing though, didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you had like
some weird. Yeah.
I'm saying, it was tough. It was a tough upbringing.
I grew up. Let me tell you something, man. Till this day, I'll get into this real quick. When I was 5 years old, I was coming home from school, right? I guess I was in kindergarten or first grade, and I'm a baby of 5. So I'm a baby of 5, and we didn't have a lot of structure at all. So my siblings are outside playing in the street, and my mom took my backpack and walked up the stoop. Right, she walks up the stoop to open the door and bring stuff in. I see my siblings like playing tag. They're playing tag outside. I'm 5 years old, dude, and I get hit by a car by a Domino's pizza delivery driver. And supposedly he wasn't even the driver. He was like the son of like the dad that worked at Domino's or something. It was crazy. So 5 years old, I go in the hospital. My heart stops twice. I wasn't even supposed to make it. And I'm 5 years old, dude. I'm my son's age. And that really comes back to me because there's so much stuff that's happened in my life that I've overcome the odds and been in places that I probably shouldn't have never been, starting when I was 5, even starting before that. When my mother was pregnant with me, she was a drug addict, and she was actually doing drugs while pregnant with me. So, even being born was a blessing. But hey, I mean, yeah, you grow up, people grow up different ways. I don't, my story is my story. It's not something to cry about. There's plenty of people who had it worse than me. But yeah, just grew up in a divorced home. I'd never seen my mother and my father together, shared a hug or a kiss. My father's in and out of prison. There's a lot that happened in my life for sure, but I'm very, very grateful for everything. I've never held any grudges. I've had anger. I definitely have anger. I had anger towards them, but I've chose to forgive them. I've chose to choose a different life. And at a very young age, I also knew, Everett, this is crazy because you could like prophesy this stuff. I knew at a young age, and I mean like 11 years old, that when I had a kid and I wanted a big family, that my wife was going to raise my children, that my children were not just going to be raised by a school, that we were going to be blessed enough where my wife could stay home and go back to that traditional stuff that, I believe in, where the mom, could help raise the children. And thank God for my wife that we have the same core values and beliefs as far as that go. We have a family of, 4 kids and 2 of us, so family of 6. So it's crazy, man. Everything I've kind of been through as a kid has given me the tools to be a better father, a better husband, a better human being towards others. But it's also just given me that pathway of no excuses, no pity. Like I don't have a lot of pity for people in life. And maybe that's because of the things that I've been through.
You're hardened. So like, it's hard for people to understand. Like if you're a hardened person, sometimes people are like, well, he's tough around the edges or rough around the edges, but it's tough for people to understand that when you don't see what led to that point, and you posted something actually yesterday or today or something like that. And you had said something about just like groceries in the fridge. Yeah. And I actually read that, and I'm like, and I remember you saying something back in the day, and you were saying, bro, it's like so weird to me. Like I can go to my fridge and there's food in there, and my kids have food in there. Yeah, like they have food. And like, as if to say, like, you were a kid and you didn't have food in the fridge when you were a kid. You didn't.
Yeah, correct.
You didn't.
So man, I remember we grew up on public assistance. We grew up on food stamps, Section 8, welfare. But the problem was my mom was a drug addict. My father was a drug addict, in and out of prison. So I didn't really meet my father until I was 10 years old. And my mom would cash in the food stamps. So what would happen is she would go to like the bodegas and things like that, and she would have a food stamp card, and she would cash in the food stamps, dude. And if they gave her like $200 in food stamps, $600, whatever it was, she would cash that in and get money and use that for her habits. And so even though we were getting money from the state, the kids were never receiving that. About 7 years old, I remember I had books, like Disney books or whatever, and I was in Port Richmond, Staten Island. And I went up to the school, and there was like Mexicans playing basketball. And I just remember it was a highly Mexican population. And I tried to sell books, dude, just so I could help like give food to my sisters, because we didn't really have food. I remember we used to get sliced bread and put sugar in the sliced bread and like roll it up in a ball. I didn't even know what we were doing, and just eat it so the bread had some flavor. I remember we took saltine crackers and put frosting to make a cake and sprinkles on there. So like we had like a fake cupcake. But you get creative, dude. And yeah, we didn't have food. There was a lot of nights I went into bed hungry. But you know what, man, I don't like talking about that. And I know it's healthy to talk about it, but I just know that there's so many people who have it worse than me. If I could share it and talk about it, it's
Yeah,
only
but
to,
let me just say this, because you're being dismissive about it, and I understand why you're being dismissive about it, because it's uncomfortable to talk about, and you're talking about it in front of, whatever, hundreds of thousands
yeah.
of people, whatever it is, dude. And we don't have to, but just
No, no, that's
understand
fine.
something. This is, I mean, you just started this organization, like, Monforte Motivation, right? Because it's a passion of yours. Because listen,
Yeah.
part of this sales tales here is the fact that you're an incredible sales rep, and you have amazing customers who love you. But on top of that, there's a reason for that. Like, you're an incredible service technician. You're technically sound. Like, you're really, I mean, you're seriously one of a kind. People that don't know who you are, like, that have not seen you work and seen you in action, like, don't really truly understand. Like
I appreciate that.
this is the point. The point is that you literally could be like a statistic, right? Like,
Yeah,
you
for
could
sure.
literally be a statistic. You could have nothing at all, be on the streets, end up a drug addict,
Yeah.
doing drugs laced with fentanyl, whatever it is. But instead, like, let me just tell people, like, dude, you live in a beautiful house. You got 4 beautiful kids. Like, it's like unreal what you've done with your life. And here's something that people, and we're just going to talk about it because I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, you're never satisfied. You've never gotten there. As successful as you've been, the cars that you've paid off, and the house that you own, and the successes that you had, and all this kind of stuff. And it just seems like to me, and I get it. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but it's like, I think just like successful minded people just end up and it's a double-edged sword, because it's just you're never actually there. But to think that to make things, it's always like, listen, if you grew up and you had your dad, owned this or that, and you had the silver spoon put in your mouth, and you grew up and you had something kind of given to you, like, nothing wrong with those people. They made success of themselves, nothing to take away from them, right? You had to do that, but you had to do that from literally nothing.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
So
an
what,
accomplishment.
and I appreciate that. So what you're talking about is what a lot of what successful people go through. So what you're talking about, the success and the tension that, like, we're never satisfied. That's what happens when that's what happens when you see the good, right? The good is here and the great is here. And that tension between, it's like a spring, dude. It's totally a spring. And what happens is you put so much pressure on yourself to get from good to great and create that leap. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I'll ever completely feel like my work is done, because I'm always trying to press forward, reach as many people as I can reach that's in my circle, keep a good circle, but just really become inspiring for others. I really love the young people, the youth, and because the youth for me was so challenging, being comfortable in my own skin. I wasn't always comfortable in my own skin. I was shy. I wasn't really a crowd pleaser. And now, man,
it's hard for me to believe that you were shy. By the way, I love it,
man. I was insecure.
I love what Dan Baker says here. He says, where we come from matters less than where we're going, for sure. Good for you, sir. Most people do not break through, which he's right. Most people don't break through.
See, that's so hard for me to understand how.
Yeah, well, it's hard for people like you and I to understand. And look, I mean, it's funny. People would like listen to my story and be like, "Oh, wow, it's amazing, like where you came from." And then I'm like, "Wow, you should talk to Blake."
Yeah. But yeah, man. Well, you and I spoke about you, and I mean, I'm not going to get into it. That's for you to share. But man, the stuff that I've learned about you, it's a unique story for sure, and it's very humbling to hear your story, because it makes me feel like I was blessed. So, but
we have a lot in common there. But I think if this is going to reach anybody, and anybody's like listening and they're saying to themselves, whatever hole they're in, whatever, wherever they are at, whatever obstacle that they have in front of them, it's like there is always going to be a way to find your way in some way to put it together. And there are probably people out there that you could probably rely on to help you get out of those holes too. And I want to say something though, because, and this is like a little off tangent here, because I told somebody I was talking about like NA and AA and rehab and whatever else. And I was saying, I've never heard a story, never, of anybody that has suffered from like, you know, crippling anxiety or drug addiction or anything like that without some sort of like, you know, yes, psychiatry, all that stuff, but without some sort of spiritual, like even when I listen to people get interviewed and they're like, oh, what did you do? Well, I took this medication, that medication, I did this and I did that. And it's like, they always say, yeah, but you know what? Like I started, you know, going to church, or I started you know, delving in and realizing that there's things that I'm attached to that are bigger than me. Correct. There's things that I'm connected to that are bigger than me. And you're a very spiritual person. You obviously actually tell about the baseball. Yeah.
The baseball is right here. So right here. So the baseball, it's a cool story. I went to church. I go to church and Pastor Keith in Elevate Life Church in Frisco. It's a beautiful church, man. It's unbelievable. It's not a churchy church. It's a loving, caring, self-development, real world obstacles that you're going to run through, and just it's rah church, and it's amazing. It's right up my alley. And so we go to church, and he does it in series. So for about the next 5 weeks, he's going to talk about favor, God's favor. And in 1992, he was 32 years old, which is my age. And I was born in 92. So this is crazy, right? So I'm 32. He was 32 in 92. I was born in 92. So he's 64. And he was at a speaking event. He was at a speaking event, and he was with his brother, and his brother bought him tickets to this event. And I think he's from Louisiana, but he's lived in Texas for a long time. And I don't want to quote him, but I believe the event was in Arlington, and I think it was for the Rangers or something like that. And he was at a speaking event, and he told his brother, he said, I should be doing this. Like, this is my calling. I need to be a speaker. And his brother's like, man, you're nuts, man. Like, you're crazy. So the guy on stage who's talking, his name was like Peter something. So the guy's on stage and he's talking, and he goes, I need to stop the show. He said, there's somebody I'm supposed to talk to, right? This is not scripted, dude. This is crazy. So he starts walking off the stage. Pastor Keith at the time is 32. He beelines it right towards where the guy's walking off stage. He goes, hey, I'm the guy you're supposed to be talking to. He goes, all right, well, then come with me. Dude, he's got no idea. Like, I don't know what happened, but he goes, I'm the guy you're supposed to be talking to. So he goes in this room, dude, and there's like high level people, like President Bush at the time is there. Like I don't think it's Junior. I think it's the older one. And you know, President Bush is there, and he's in a prayer circle with the president. So he tells his brother, he comes back. He's like, dude, I was just in a prayer circle with the president. He's like, no, you weren't. He's like, yes, I was. So now in 1998, he goes to a Houston Rockets game. And Nolan Ryan is at the Houston Rockets game. And he's throwing baseballs into the crowd. I'm not sure if it was one or a few. And he's throwing the baseball in the crowd. So Pastor Keith, he's like jumping. He's like, throw it to me. And him and Nolan Ryan connect eyes. He throws the ball. Nolan Ryan sides the ball. Pastor Keith starts breaking down, crying, because to him, it wasn't just the baseball. It was the favor from God. Like, everything was aligning itself the way it was supposed to be. And so I go to church, and on May 5th, I believe that was a Sunday, if I'm not wrong, May 5th was when Pastor Keith was going to throw the ball of favor. And I'm there with Blake. I'm there with my son. And, you know, he sits with me. I drop my daughters off in the classrooms, and Blake stays with me. And, dude, I catch this ball, man. I catch the ball, and he threw the ball in the crowd, and I caught the ball, and I just held on to it so tight because the day before I created my logo for Monforte Motivation, and I just wanted to stop talking about it because I've been talking about it for years about how my passion is my passion, and developing and growing and inspiring and being a professional speaker. And I just say, you know what, let me start somewhere, even if it's not perfect, even if I don't like it, just start somewhere. And that night, Saturday night, I started with a logo. I paid for it. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm not really a computer person like that. But I just do it. And then Sunday, I get this baseball thrown to me, and I just hold it to my heart. And it means so much to me, because I feel like with everything I've been through, like you mentioned, your upbringing, me getting hit by a car when I was 5, my mother being on crack as I'm in her womb, and dude, just everything just comes full circle. And I feel like the best is yet to come. I've really plugged into church, and I really have gotten spiritual, and it's been my crutch for sure. I'm the type of dude that when I'm 2 feet in, I'm 2 feet in, and that's a gift and a curse, because if I'm around the wrong people and I'm doing the wrong things, I'm 2 feet in. If I'm around the right people and I'm doing the right things, I'm 2 feet in. And I need to make sure that my alignments really matter, and that I'm around the right people at the right time, so the right things could happen. And that's really what that baseball means to me.
That's a really cool story. I wish you luck with the Monforte motivation. I mean, it's brand new. We'll see what happens from it.
It's a hobby, man. So whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, maybe you'll get some speaking gigs. But people like to hear, they like to hear the stories. They like to hear the going from nothing to accomplishing something. Speaking of which, so you've spent the last 7 years in the field, 6 years in the field.
Well, residential, commercial, another 6 years. I've been in this industry, the mechanical, since 2012.
12 years. What is tell me, I want to know, I want to hear a story about like something crazy, like in New York City, like working on something. I want to hear something nuts. I don't know, like
but Everett, I got no good stories. Like everything is like mind blow. Like I remember one time, dude, I'll share a story, and these are the stories. So I'm working with this guy Jamie, right, and we're in Cam Fuel, and they kind of just hire anybody. You don't need any credentials. You're like, it's not anything I'm used to in Texas, where you have a uniform and tech pants and an agenda to go over. I didn't know any of that stuff, right? It's just like, go to work, just show up and go to work. So this dude Jamie, it's crazy. Like I remember we're in the Bronx. We're not far from Yankee Stadium. We're in the Bronx, and nobody would know this guy, so that's why I said the name. But he's got a big problem. He's got a big drug problem, dude. And a lot of people that I've worked with, they the only way they can keep going is by drugs. And seriously, it's the only way they kept going was using drugs, whether it was coke or heroin or whatever the hardcore drug was. And this dude used to shoot in his arm. I've never seen this as much as like a wild bringing I had. At least my parents have respect to go in the bathroom. This dude is sitting in the passenger seat of me, and he takes this Coke bottle. It's a Coke can. He cuts the Coke can, and I'm teaching people how to do this, I guess. And there's
don't teach people how to do this.
Okay.
All right. So he does this thing. Yeah, he starts
right in front of me, dude. And he starts tripping, man. And he's starting to yell, and then he's calm. And then we get into the basement, and we're like, I told you the work we're doing. Like, this dude's in charge of the electrical. He's like the electrician. Like, it's ridiculous. So he's the electrician, and he's wiring up this boiler, dude. And let me tell you, it now gets to the point where it's almost 1:00 in the morning, and we're downstairs in this basement, and it was cold. It was like 20 degrees. I remember I went right around the corner to buy pizza, because in New York City, as you know, nothing goes to bed. Everything is, it's like 1:00 in the morning is no different than 1:00 in the afternoon, dude. It's ridiculous. So I go around the corner and get pizza just so I could stay warm. That's how cold it was. It was like 20 degrees, 17 degrees. It was freezing.
Yo, Blake, you want a pair of gloves? Nah, man, give me a slice.
Give me a slice. So, dude, the basement was freezing, and all I know is I come downstairs and there's a fire. Like literally, there's flames in the boiler room. I grab the fire extinguisher. I'm putting out the fire, dude, putting the boiler out. And before you know it, everything's covered in this white powder, including him, because he was in the room. And I was just spraying the thing, dude. And this dude's covered in white powder. And I'm just like, man, we could have burned this building down. It's just ridiculous, man. And like, you know, that was the stuff that I was a part of in New York, and it was crazy. There's a lot of stories in New York, but a lot of fun, a lot of good times. I used to love working in the city, just coming out for a breath of fresh air on a beautiful summer day. There's no place like it in the world when you can just take 15-minute break, step outside. You're on the West Side Highway. You know, you have the river there, the highway. There's so many people. You'll never see these people another day in your life, right? It's just like, it was such a breath of fresh air working out there when it came to scenery. Scenery was really cool. But it was a grind. It was tough. It was a grind. I got more stories in Texas. I've met more famous people in Texas than I ever have in New York, which is crazy.
Who'd you meet?
Quite a few. So not too long ago, I met DeMarcus Ware. I was hanging out with them. Dude, so cool, man. So cool. What a beautiful soul. Such a nice guy. Actually chatted with him on Instagram. What a great guy, dude. And just like I even put my brother Frankie on the phone with him. And he's like, hey, man, he's like, how come you don't like Eli? And he's like, dude, he took 2 Super Bowls from me, right? And we're talking the whole Giants Cowboys thing. And he goes, DeMarcus Ware, he goes, so I'm assuming you hate me. I'm like, no, I'm like, hate's a very strong word. I said, I'll just say I liked you better when you played for the Broncos. And he started laughing, dude. So I met DeMarcus Ware. I met Ben Bishop, the goalie, when he was a goalie for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was also a goalie for Dallas Stars. I'm drawing blanks. I met Drew Pearson, the original 88 for the Dallas Cowboys. I met Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin is a trip. That dude, man, that dude's a trip. He's a funny dude.
So funny story about Michael Irvin. I was literally like 22 years old, and my buddy Chris and a bunch of people had gotten this house in Summit, New Jersey. Right. This is like Rex Ryan lived in this neighborhood. Like this was
that's cool.
Well, when he later on. Anyway,
I like Rex Ryan, man.
So this was like a leftover house. Like every house in that entire like town is like massive mansions, everything. And we rented this house that was set back on this main like service road. But it was a main service road, but you couldn't even like see the house. Like you would pass by it, you would have no idea you saw it. Well, anyway, so we would go out back. Okay, like if we had ridiculous parties at this place. Well, we would like go back in the back there, like chop down like trees and stuff. I mean, it was just so stupid, but we're back there. My buddy's back there. Chris is back there and he's walking through like the woods back there. He's probably, you know, whatever he's doing. And I guess at the time, Michael Irvin had just retired and he was working in a New York like studio, like, doing football analyst stuff.
Right.
And he's walking around and he's our neighbor to the back. And he walks up and he's like, hey, man, I'm Michael Irvin. And he just starts talking. And bro never said a thing never called the cops, nothing, bro.
That's crazy.
We had cars literally like on the lawn, on the back of like 40 cars, like on the lawn of this place.
That's crazy.
He didn't even
that
care.
guy's a nut. Like when I say a nut, I mean like,
yeah, he probably would have come over.
Way, yeah, he probably wanted to party with you, man.
If we would have invited him over, yeah.
Well, you should have. You're a Jet fan. You got no animosity against it.
I know. Yeah, I don't have animosity about any sports fan. Listen, I live in misery. Yeah,
you do.
The life of a Jets fan is to live.
Well, at least you're not a Cowboy fan.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not delusional.
Yeah, but at least you win regular season games. Like we haven't been to the playoffs in.
Well, that's going to change this year. That's going to change this year. Aaron Rodgers is going to take them there.
We're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but yeah. Anyway, I got a story for you. Okay. So this is a good one. So this is good for your mindset. This is good for not prejudging calls. This is a good one, dude. So I'm working, Matt Billy go, and I'm running calls. And
I get to this house, man, and it's right off the intersection of a major highway. And first of all, you can't even find parking. And you don't feel that too many times in the state of Texas over here, right? Usually parking is a free for all. Well, it's on the main street. You can't even really find parking. So what I did was I found a way to get into the man's driveway. And I don't usually park in driveways without asking for permission at first. But this was a unique kind of situation right off a main road. So I'm billboarding, and I'm seeing, that he's been a previous customer, but not a long customer. And I get there, and hopefully I can share this stuff. So I get there, and it's a maintenance call. And I get there, and the dude is big, Everett. He can't even fit in the screen. He's a big gentleman, right? Big gentleman. And his shirt, like you can see his belly button and stuff. Like it's a big dude, just to give a little description. And he lets me in the house, and right away you can smell the house. I mean, there's a blind dog. There's wee wee. It's like a chihuahua. There's wee wee pads. The smell of urine. The smell of whatever you're smelling. It's one of the houses that you're trying not to gag. And I don't say that to exaggerate or put salt and pepper on the story. That's exactly what I walked into. And the guy opens the door, he lets me in, and he plows right back on his couch, right? Hands out, and just plows back on the couch. And he's watching the news, and I'm trying to start conversation, but if I'm being honest, I really didn't want to start too much conversation because I wanted to get in and get out. But I'm talking to the guy, and I said, so what's going on with your air conditioning and things like that? And he goes, well, it hasn't worked in 4 years. I said, what do you mean it hasn't worked in 4 years? He goes, oh yeah, well, we just haven't used it for 4 years. And I said, so I guess hence that's why you have the little portable air conditioning unit over here. And he goes, yeah. So I said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you want this to work? I mean, would you like to have air conditioning in your home? Or because obviously I can't do a maintenance on something that's not working, right? So he goes, yeah, I would like to have air conditioning in the home. And now, he has spent $29,000 with us, okay, in the plumbing division, $29,000 on one call. So I said, okay. So I go in the garage. Dude, the ductwork on this system is dryer vent. Where's the camera? It's like, dude, 4-inch, 5-inch dryer vent coming off this man's system. It's in the garage. The ceiling in the garage is completely collapsed. It's completely collapsed. The electric on the house is just falling apart. Then he says, I would like to put the unit in the attic. So now, I got to draw all this up. I got to draw up ductwork. IAQ, dude, IAQ, using dynamic IAQ. So the IAQ 3000, which comes with the UV light, the oxidizer, the air cleaner, the electrostatic air cleaner.
For those that don't know, IAQ means indoor air quality. They're air sterilizers you put in central air conditioning systems.
Yes, thank you. And this guy spends like $40,000 and writes a check. Now let me tell you,
that's what you do, bro. That's what you do. You write checks. You didn't know that guy won the lottery,
dude. He didn't win the lot. Well, so what happened was his mom had passed away, and he had received like $119,000 from his mom. It's not big money, but the point of it was, well, it's money, but I'm just saying he already spent 60,000 of that 119 on the home. That if you would have walked in the home, you would think that we're probably just better off knocking this thing down. Like the land was probably more expensive than the house for the shape that the house was in. That's how bad. I wish I could give like a better vision of this. This house was a total bulldoze.
I get it, but think about it. Think about this. Ready? That guy probably doesn't even leave his house.
He does. Yeah, correct.
So okay.
His house means everything to him.
Right. So it's everything. Like he's so big, he doesn't leave the house. Like that's his castle. So if he spends a bunch of money on the stuff that he has to fix in the house, at least he's like, all right, I'm set. This is my, like, I don't go anywhere. So here you go. It's not a happy existence. It's kind of sad actually, but
Yeah.
I mean,
you think, how do people live like that? But you just, not to, prejudge those calls and
yeah,
treat them like $1 million and, anything's possible.
You don't prejudge. And I
we
train
had
my
to
guys.
rewire the whole house. We had to get an electrician. They redid all the electric in the house. The guy needed a whole total makeover. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's a good lesson on not prejudging people, because you never actually know, you also don't know what people are going through. Like I had Shelly on, who does like hoarder house cleanouts, and cool. These people that she does these hoarder house cleanouts, bro, they're mentally, they're messed up, man. They're coming out, they're yelling at them. Like they hired them, right? Their family, estate, whatever it is. And they come out and they scream at her and they're like, oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Let me ask you this. I asked this on every single podcast. I know you've watched and listened to a bunch of them. So I'm going to ask you this because I know we've shared a lot, and I know you said a lot, but I'm curious, in the world of sales and service. Okay. What is one call that you run that when you left and today, till this day, it lives with you, it stays with you, that you remember that customer, you remember that person, and it travels with you where you go?
There's probably like 2 or 3 of them that I remember that stays with me. There's this one customer in Dallas, and she definitely has a place in my heart. She's in her 30s. Okay, just to give some perspective, she's in her 30s, and I met her at a different company, and she really appreciated the fact that she never felt like I was trying to sell her anything. She appreciated the fact that I was honest with her when it came to a lot of stuff about the install and things and how we can make it better, and pushing the envelope. So I haven't seen the lady in about a year, maybe a year and a half. And I'm at a different company called Billy Go. This lady calls Billy Go, dude. And guess who shows up to her door? So I get the phone call and I show up to her door. And instantly she's like super excited. I don't want to say emotional, but you can see that like she was just like almost too excited, to the fact that like she was like, wow, I found my air conditioning guy. Because the first visit, we never thought about exchanging numbers or anything. It just organically happened. And when I went there at the time, she got the text message and it said, your technician, Blake Monforte, will be there in 30 minutes. And she was like, no way, like Blake is coming. So I go there, dude, and she instantly just like wraps her arms around me, gives me a hug, and I hug her back. And we just talk so much about life. We talk so much about the kids, my wife, her husband, she's got 4 kids, the handiwork that she does around the house. She's an amazing, amazing human being. She's like a mother. She mothers all these technicians. So the best thing about it was I told her, this is the best part about the call. So I told her, I said, I love coming here. And I love, coming to your home because it's such a lovely environment. But I want you to meet somebody else. And I introduced Jordan, who made a comment. So he doesn't know this till this day, but I told her, when you call the company, X for Jordan. And she asked for Jordan, and she met with Jordan, and he called me, and we shared, a story about how sweet this woman is. And after that, she had met with this guy, Ryan, who works here, and she gives him a book about like being a dad to his daughters. And I'm telling you, this lady's just like a great mother. And when I tell you the reason why she comes to my mind is because she's become so much more than a customer. She's a person that has took people from the company, took these technicians from the company, and when they leave her house, They leave inspired to become better fathers, inspired to be better husbands. They're inspired to be better at their jobs. And this is all from this lady who just has this genuine gifted personality. When I go to her house, I went to her house probably 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. She has this gift for my wife. She has gifts for my kids. Like, she doesn't have to do that, dude. She doesn't have to do that at all. And she's doing that out of the kindness of her heart. So I had this card. This lady had given me a card, like a greeting card that she had handmade. And I had it in my van for like a year, right? And it just said like, it was a thank you card. And I never really had like a purpose to use it. I was going to use it for my wife, right? Like, you know, let me use it for my wife. But I never did. I never got to it. It just sat in the van and it's like above my head. So it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So I said, I have something for you in the truck too. So I go to the truck and I fill out this card, and it's a thank you card. And I put a note in there, and I put $250 in this card cash. Okay. And I don't usually lick envelopes anymore because that's like old school. And I licked the envelope, and I tell her, and I said, hey, I said, don't open this until I leave. So she calls me and she's like, are you out of your mind? Are you crazy? You gave me $250. And I said, Valerie, I said, it's not for you. I said, okay. I said, it's for the supplies that you buy. I said, the stuff that you do, you've given everybody here a gift. You wrap them, you know, you do it with your heart. I'm sure there's many other people in your life that you bless, right? That we don't even know about, right? I said, so it's not about you. The money is because I support what you do. And it's just that God has put that on my heart to give you the money. And that's what I did. And she was so appreciative of it, dude. And she was like, you know what? I'm just going to go buy more books. She's like, I'm going to go buy more parenting books, and I'm just going to give out more parenting books, dude. And I'm like, good for you, man. Like, that's exactly what it was for. So that's the one lady. Her name is Valerie, Mrs. Green. Tremendous individual. So sweet. And yeah, that's the one lady that sticks out to me.
I've never heard a story like that.
Really?
I've never heard a story of a customer giving the service technician like inspiration to the point where you sent, you know, multiple 3-4 guys to the house and she inspires everybody. Bro, if there was any indication to, like, you know, like, I don't know, whatever you want to say, like people that are just divine, like just inspired by, you know, by forces that we can't understand. Yeah. Like, that's amazing that she's had that kind of effect. Yeah. It's kind of infectious. I never heard anything like that before.
Yeah. She's an amazing lady, dude. You would think she's 65, 70 years old. She's in her late 30s, dude. And that's what makes it even more like, wow. Wow. Yeah. She's a great lady. So that was one lady. And then, you know, I just had crazy calls like anybody else, man. Just, I remember going in one house, dude. I've had, you know, you remember the bad stuff. Is that normal? Like, do most of your people
that's what most people on here talk about is all the bad stuff. It's always the weird, the crazy stuff, the people like the murderers. Like, bro, I have a sales rep today who said that he was in a house and he was pretty sure that the guy that was in the house murdered his mother. That's insane. Like, that was his words. He's like, I'm pretty sure this guy's a serial murderer. He's like, when I go back, I'm bringing somebody else with me. I'm like, why are you going back? He's like, I don't know, man. It's kind of exciting, to be honest with you. I just want to see what happens.
The thrill, right? It's the thrill.
Dude, I'm not even kidding you. I told him, like, dude, why are you going back to this house? He's like, I don't know, man. It's just the adrenaline.
It's the thrill, man. The guy's crazy. That's nuts.
What's your crazy story?
Oh man, I told you one with that guy, just like the crazy evolution of seeing all that. I remember, I mean, I've gotten into some arguments with people, you know, just being confrontational, like people not understanding business. You know, they're like, well, this capacitor is $15 and you're charging $300. And it's like, yeah, how much was that liquor bottle that you have there on your shelf? You know, like, how much do you think that thing cost? You know, just like get confrontational. I've had one guy call me a DICK and just, you know, told me to leave his house because he wanted to rebuild his own motor. Tell the story about you and Kevin almost sent the attic on fire. Kevin turned the light switch. Oh my God. Kevin did not turn the light switch off. Oh, maybe he turned the light switch off. I don't remember that. I remember I turned the gas valve off. So, you know, Kevin, dude, you know who he's talking about with Kevin?
Yep.
Okay. So we're working at Rescue Air, and I haven't done a heat. Jordan, this is not a good story, dude. So I haven't done a heat tune up in a long time, and I'm checking gas pressures, dude. And me not thinking, I'm checking gas pressures with the furnace running its cycle, and I open up the gas valve, let gas expose into the attic. The gas and the flame ignite, so there's like a poof of fire in the attic, dude. So Kevin's like, oh shit. Like Kevin's panicking, dude. I'm nervous, right? I'm not a superhero, dude. I'm nervous. There's a fire in this guy's home. And the customer, to make it all worse, dude, the customer has that angle, right? Where he's like by the ladder and he's like looking up and he sees a fire, right? So all I did was turn the gas valve off, and that was it. The fire was gone. There was no harm, no foul. Apologized for it, and the customer wasn't even like upset. But Kevin, man, I ran out of gas with Kevin before. We were stuck on the highway, me and Kevin, because Kevin did not check the gas pump. Dude, we're stuck in like Arlington, and we're just like on the side of the highway with no gas. The gas station, I could see it. So I start walking. Kevin did not want to walk because that wasn't his protege. So he didn't want to walk. I walked to the gas station. I buy this canister. I put gas in the van. We've had some stories as far as me and Kevin goes.
That's funny. I forgot that you guys rode together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wind down over here, what do you want to tell people?
What do I want to tell people? I want to tell people that life is amazing, right? Life is beautiful. Life is whatever you make out of it. One person that I get inspired by, and I may lose credibility, I may gain credibility, and I really don't give a rat's ass, to be honest with you. But one person that I get inspired by is Ishmael from Next Gen. Just his story, how he was brought up, what that man's created is just inspiring to me to, always keep going, always keep pushing forward. You never know what you can turn your dreams into, even bigger than your own reality. People say, hey, your dreams could become a reality. They could also become bigger than what you ever imagined. So me talking to people, Everett, I'm very passionate. I could talk to people forever, especially about goals and being driven, relationship building. Take your time in the houses with customers if you're a service technician or sales. But I will say that life is going to kick your ass, and you need to get back up every time and keep fighting, because only when you say I quit is when it's over. And if you decide not to quit and you decide to keep going, that there's going to be blessings upon blessings that you could reap from, and understand sometimes that the struggle is part of the blessing, that we all need to go through struggle. We all need to go through hard times. And it may, sometimes when we're in the struggle, we complain about it, we whine about it, and what we don't really want to pay attention to is what that struggle does for our life and our mindset, and creates that shift in growing character. I won't say I've been on a journey, right? Because it's not a journey, but in the last year and a half of my life, I've really have done a great job of making myself very uncomfortable with my own body, as far as cold plunging. Dude, I've never really did that stuff in New York or even the first 4 years in Texas. Exercising, pushing my limits. I'm going to go to like a Mighty Men camp. So I go to Mighty Men at church every Saturday, and it's so cool, dude. It's just like a bunch of men. It's like 200-300 men on Saturday who want to become better husbands, fathers, spiritual, follow God. And I'm going to go to this camp. They had a camp in Houston. I'm going to go next year, man. Totally ridiculous what they put their bodies through. Chopping logs, jumping barriers, 150 to 250 pounds of bags throwing over, like all these obstacle courses that you've seen on TV probably, just to be a part of that and go through that extreme. And I look forward to failing, because I'm definitely not going to well, I don't want to put doubt on myself, but if I do fail at that, I'm okay with fail. I used to tell Jordan, I said, man, I said, the best place to fail is in the gym. It's totally okay to fail in the gym. It's where you get stronger. It's where you get stronger. It's where you build yourself. And look, man, pressure. If you want to build muscle, you got to put them under tension. So that's what I've done, man.
I appreciate that, man. That makes me think of something. And this is kind of a tangent, but I want everybody to hear this. So a couple nights ago, I was just like, I'm ready to go to bed, and I was scrolling through some stuff, and I come upon this like TikTok video or YouTube, TikTok anyway. And it's of this guy who found a song, and I would encourage you to find it. There's a song that this guy who was on American Idol, which I found out later, made of, ready for this? It's an acoustic song from a 1978, the animated series of Lord of the Rings. Okay, this is pretty crazy, but but the guy who composed the song is a famous composer named Glenn Yarbrough, and he makes this absolutely beautiful song out of it. And so other people started stitching, right, and singing harmonies to this song that he wrote. And the song is from the poetry in the actual book, The Lord of the Rings, by J.R.R. Tolkien. And it's absolutely beautiful. For anybody that wants to listen to this song, is the guy's name on TikTok is called like Fritz. And the song is The Road Goes Ever, Ever On. And it reminded me, you just reminded me of that. And the lyrics are really, really sad, but the point is that like it doesn't end.
Yeah.
There's just continuous work. The road goes ever, ever on. You're never there. And we started this podcast with saying that, like, guys, especially usually like you and me, just the road goes ever, ever on. And guys, I'm plugging this guy because the song, I literally listened to it probably 20 times. So this other guy he said, well, what if Hollywood money was put behind this song and it was made into a full orchestral piece? So he says, I don't have a full orchestra, but I do have a bunch of software. So he decides and he makes this full, beautiful orchestral piece out of this guy playing the guitar. And it's absolutely beautiful. And I would definitely encourage everybody to listen to that. A little bit of a tangent, but I think you'll all appreciate it. Blake, I really want to thank you for coming on. Blake, so everybody on Facebook, go like Monforte, Monforte, Monforte Motivation. And I don't know what you're gonna post on there. I don't know what you're gonna do on there. Do you even know what you're gonna do on there?
I mean, I know that I want to be consistent. I know that I want to give words of wisdom. I know that I want to be authentic and original. And I know that I want to start a podcast. I've been inspired by yours and many others. And I just want to follow what my passion is and do it as a hobby. And if it ever turns into something more than that, I'll be very, very grateful, dude. But I've had a gift and a curse, and sometimes I can overplan things and overthink things. So I've gotten to a season in my life where I'm not really overplanning and overthinking, just taking action. And whatever. Sometimes, Everett, what happens is, man, we can't get to perfect, so we don't do the good, and perfect becomes our enemy. And I'm trying to put a nail in the coffin when it comes to that, and not have that be my enemy anymore. So do I know everything? No, I don't. But what I do know is that with stuff like this that happens in my life, man, I'm just gonna keep going, and it just keeps going and going. You
get paralyzation by analyzation, and then if you're not 100% on something, you delay it and blah 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 blah. Let me tell you something. I got a comment on the first post that I ever made on this podcast page today. Okay, now it wasn't the first post I've got. It wasn't the first comment I got, but I got to write a comment, and it was somebody that wants to come on the show. I looked at the date, and let me tell you something. And this is my lapel motivation to you. Okay, I have been thinking about making this podcast for the last few years, right? And I just never did it. And I literally made, and I sound stupid, I don't care what anybody says, I believe in New Year's resolutions. Yeah. I I believe in the power of putting something into the universe so that you can keep yourself accountable, and then telling people that you're going to do it so that you follow through with it. Right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they're just thoughts, they're not actions. And I made that New Year's resolution. I said, this is the year I'm going to do this podcast. And guess what? The first date of the first video of this podcast was January 8th of this year. And in that time period, I can check like all these crazy stats and everything like that. I'm blown away. I've had something stupid like 50,000 people have engaged in some sort of way in this podcast. And look, I haven't made $1. I haven't made $1, and I probably won't. I probably won't, and it'll take a really long time. People are going to really have to love it and share it and all this other stuff. And look, for those people that tune in and they listen and because I see people every week, the views go up and up and up. And so I'm like, for any of those people, you know what, if you like it, and I haven't done this not even once, but if you like it, send it to a friend, you know what I mean? Because send it to a friend, send it off. Maybe there's a little story. That's why I clip those little things too. I clip the little things because it's like, I clip little snippets because they're just fun little clips. And I want people to know, like, if they're not listening to it, like this is kind of what's happening. I like that. It's like two people just having a conversation about, their travels and adventures in the field and what we go through every single day. And I really want people to hear like that side of it, right? That's a side of it that no one is talking about it. Our whole world of sales, our whole world of service, nobody's talking about it. Everybody's just I'm hoping it becomes a good platform for people to come on and tell their tales. And bro, I'm super grateful for you, and I really appreciate you taking the time, coming on the show and telling your stories. And for those of people that are maybe didn't caught it late for whatever, I would go back and listen to it because Blake kind of talked about his upbringing and so dude, I love you, man. I'm gonna let everybody go. Next week I have a dude who is you know what, Blake, give me 1 second here. I'm gonna just make a couple announcements and then I'm gonna hop in with you here. So next week I'm gonna have a guy who is absolutely a lunatic. Literally a lunatic. He's on TikTok. He's got like a famous TikTok page for HVAC. And like I met this guy and I was kind of like, who is this guy? Like he just posts like crazy videos. Anyway, his name's Cody. Just nuts. Anyway, he's from Houston. Also, I know I made an announcement about Kenny Brooks coming on the show, the funny salesman, the guy that does all the door-to-door stuff. Literally, as I'm on this podcast right now, because I tried to reach out to him, his manager is Timbaland, the Timbaland, and he's like trying to find spots in his schedule to like come on. And literally while I'm here, he texted me while this podcast was going on. So I reached out to him like a week ago and he like ghosted me, but now he just texted me. So I'm pretty stoked about that. So Kenny Brooks will come on. Then I have Coral Whale, which we're trying to find schedules. And then I've got a couple other people that are lined up, but I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will, I'll see you next week.